Hello, this is Gene. It's another episode of Let's Talk. Please don't worry about the light flare that you're going to see. And this is the best place for me to actually do this talk. It gives me some privacy. Things I might say would be probably controversial in my house. So I just don't want to expose that to anybody else. Although everybody in this house knows that I'm radically right, I guess. So this series is basically I look through things that's happened and I talk about it from my point of view. It's only my point of view. Doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. You know, I've been around for about 55 years now, so how I perceive things is just how I perceive it. Anyway, I'm not going to say that don't be triggered or get offended. If you do, that's on you. I'm not going to say anything that hasn't been said by other people. I just might do it differently because of how I am. I'm going to talk about some controversial things. The last one is probably the most controversial thing. So we'll see what happens with that. I do want to thank those who looked at my video on my TVD. I got the second most views ever on any of my channels. So I'm thankful with that. I don't really understand why 6 people downvoted it. I was just talking about my TV, that one back there. And there was really no video of that TV on YouTube anywhere. And I thought just talking about somebody that I've experienced this TV and what it can do for you and what it can't do. There was nothing in the comments that said anything that was that negative. But I don't really understand why people downvoted it. But whatever, you do what you want to do. You have the ability to take your finger and touch that and make it go down. So today we're going to talk about the jogger. It's hard for me to talk, so I may not be able to say his name. It almost sounds like Burgley. Amon, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about Trump and Sessions. And then we're going to talk about, it's nice to see that sports are starting up. And the very controversial thing will be, do I still believe the myth of the Holocaust? Those who've watched my, who've watched my shows in the past, I've said certain things about it. I had a nice little conversation on Twitter with somebody about it. I was defending Nick Fuentes on this subject. And too many people come out saying that, oh, it's proof, everything's so proof, and that there should be no discussion about it. And there was somebody on there that had a little conversation with me, and I'm going to talk about that and what I still believe, because it hasn't really changed my viewpoint. But I'm allowed to listen to someone else's opinion, and I might tweak what I have to say, but it's really not going to change what I really believe. So let's talk about the jogger. Okay, I waited a long time before I want to say anything about this. Because too much in the past we've heard about hate crimes. You see this swastikas, the word, in Jewish areas, or something that was black in nature, like at the Air Force Academy, or saying something bad about women, and almost invariably all those turned out to be hoaxes. They had this huge coverage, right? And then what happens when they find out in a week or two that it's a hoax, the coverage is like 1% of what you just do. So they've already got this in your mind that, oh, everybody who happens to be racist, who look like me, because we're against Jews, we're against women, and we're against blacks or Hispanics or anything like that. So my age group and the people a little bit older than me, the boomers, are being blamed for pretty much everything in this country, because apparently we started slavery. But anyway. So I watched this. I watched all the videos. I watched the ones he did before when he got in trouble with the cops, which I think is fair to look at the character of the man. There are a couple black conservatives online that are on YouTube, former Officer Tatum and then Amazing Lucas, who have been fighting against each other in this. And they're both conservatives, and they're almost like MAGA conservative black men. And they have some issues with MAGA right now. We're going to talk with that with Trump as well. So but they're getting a lot of views from it, and I think a lot of this is drama that they're having. So it's like Lucas says, well, he's former officer, so he's not really an officer. So apparently he doesn't have any knowledge about something like that. And there were things in the past that Tatum had said, which is stupid. But this is just from my opinion, right? And I think that it's a very simple case. We have a video. We have the rush to justice based on public opinion by charging these men as murder. And then now, recently, the guy that was behind there, actually videoing this, is now also charged with murder. Because when you're, there's a way you can do this. Obviously, it's not first degree murder, but you can still be charged with murder if you are during a felony is going on and the result is somebody being killed. And of course, if you're part of the group, you can be charged with murder. This happened if you're robbing someone's house and you end up killing somebody in the house, whether it's an accident or not, you can still be charged with murder. So I think it's shocking in this day and age when everybody has a phone. So all these people that have been taking pictures and videos of guys getting knocked out, and none of those people, you never get those guys in jail anyway, the guys who are actually knocking people out. But if you did, the people are taking the video, they're not being charged either, but I guess this guy is. Whatever. This is how it happens. Becomes a cause celebrity, and everybody has to go in line because they're all white and they're all racist and all this stuff. So, again, I took a step back. I watched it. Of course, I'm a white man. I'm not, my background is not Jewish. I'm not somebody that looks like I'm white and claims I'm white until it's not good for me. So I was watching it and looking at the video. This is just a video. It looked very clear to me that this was a case of self-defense on both sides. Now, unfortunately, when you go after somebody, you actually go toward them, and that guy has the reasonable suspicion that you might do some severe damage to him. In Georgia, you have stand your ground laws, and so when Aubrey came him and tried to get the gun, at that point they're both, and they're not right or wrong, but there is really no charge there that I could see that would run to murder. It becomes self-defense, and the result is somebody dying on it. You can say that he followed him. You could say that he tried to impound him. They didn't do things by the law, the citizens arrest thing, that they didn't do exactly right. So you were trying to kidnap or detain, let's say, or that's not the right word because we're talking about citizen arrest. Confined. When you try to confine somebody, and they could say that by having the two trucks there that they were trying to stop him from doing that, although he could have went either way and wouldn't have been involved with that. I think it's a very simple case, and I think what they did on the day when it happened, I think they did the right thing. Not sure why the guy in the truck decided to release this. Now he's going to probably go to jail, and he's going to probably go because this happens. And I'm going to get off on a little bit of tangent here, but let me just talk about this really quick. I think in a real law, that the problem is that these people are people that are voted into office. These people, the DA is going to have to go after these guys, and they know that if they don't win this fight, there's probably going to be, or this case, that there's going to be rioting, not necessarily in that small town that's 99% white. It's going to be in Atlanta and other chocolate cities. Where I live, in Huntsville now, it's about 40% black. Now, this is not the same type of black people. Now, that sounds racist, but it's true. There's different parts. It's like white guys. We have, white trash, as they call it, that, they're out on drugs, and they're selling drugs, and they're, pimping out their shit and all that stuff. And then there are parts in the inner city that's just really bad people. Now, of course, not all. So I wouldn't expect that there's going to be any rioting here if they get off. But there are parts of this town that probably they might look at me differently because of what's going on. I don't know. I mean, we find out there's been a couple other murders of white people that could be directly related to this. People just being so upset. And they decide, well, fuck it, I'm going to kill some white people because this has happened to me because I'm a black person all the time. Whatever. So, in a real case, there's no way that they can be convicted of anything. Not murder. It have to be something well below that. But you have to look. But the thing that really kind of upsets me a little bit with these two is that it's like Lucas said, well, you can't really look at his previous accounts. You can't look at his characters, which you clearly do that when you go to when you go and to as a defense attorney, you bring people up there and say he has a good character. This is out of his character for him to do this. They may not be able to show those videos, but they definitely can talk about what happened. They can talk about his stuff. So we'll see what happens with this. I don't know what I would do if I was those guys. I probably wouldn't have went after him. But the idea that this guy was not a known person that was continually in the neighborhood. There was stuff that was being stolen. And then the guy that owns the house said, no, nothing happened. But well before that, he was calling the cops all the time saying people are coming there and stealing my shit. But now he's very afraid. He knows what's going to happen. This is like a big case that realize what's going on in the West when it comes to being white. Yeah, we're still the majority. Most of the people in the Congress are white. They look like us, even though a lot of them are not white. They're like Jewish. But anyway, it's one of those things, and it could be a powder keg. But I want to pivot to another case that happened when the kid that who went to jail for the rest of his life because a girl had a heart attack in Charlottesville. This guy was accosted by people in the streets. The cops pushed him to the wrong street. He had no intent to go there and kill anybody, and they were beating on his car with bats. And he just said, "I got to get the fuck out of here." And he went too fast, and there were people that got hurt. And this girl died of a heart attack. She didn't die because she got hit by the car. She was morbidly obese, not like Trump. Trump's just obese. So, and now he's in jail forever because it's considered a hate crime, apparently, because he's all about being okay that you're white. So, but nobody stands up for him, and so this is in the South, and it's very possible these guys are going to be a sacrificial lamb for this, and there's really no reason for it. It's tragic that the young man got killed. But sometimes you make stupid games or make stupid choices. This is what happens. I mean, Tommy, I can't remember his name. I used to watch him all the time. I don't know where he is anymore. Anyway, I'm sure he had something to say about this. But I want to get off of this, move to something else. We'll see what happens with that. I think if it was a normal case, that these probably shouldn't be going to jail. I mean, there should be no actual trial. But we'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens after. I mean, I'm not that far away from them. It's 3 miles or 3 hours from here. So it'll be interesting what might happen. People might actually want to do something about it. This is not L.A. With Ronnie King. Everybody's woke right now. Most of the people that are in the lower courts and attorneys have gone to colleges that are so leftist that they're woke as well. Even the prosecutors are. So anyway, all right, that's enough of that. Now let's talk about Trump, okay? I voted for him in 2016, and I will vote for him in 2020 because at this point, you have this idea, and at some point, I think that Trump's worse than Biden because Biden is stupid. He's always been stupid. But Trump still has his brain together, but his little petty shit that he does, what he's doing with Sessions right now is so stupid. And it allows people to look at him and say, this guy is not a good leader of the country. At some point, you have to just call him out, and I'm going to call him out. Now, I see a lot of people still defending him. A lot of people are talking about how Ann Coulter just went after him pretty hard on Twitter today. And all the people on Mega are just like, oh, I don't like Ann Coulter, even though it was Ann Coulter that said that Trump was going to win. She was the first person to say he had a real chance. And all she wanted him to do is do what he said he was supposed to do, especially when it comes to immigration. And he hasn't done it. Excuse me. So, regardless of what the polls say right now, I still think that Trump's going to win. But there are people that might not go to the polls because they don't think since he didn't really change anything. Then I said the reason why I voted for him the first time is because I knew the economy would be a lot better. And it would have been fine. Here in Huntsville, we were at 2% unemployment under Trump and his administration and the state. And now it's over 10 because what's happened. That's not really Trump's fault. And we can go back to 2020 and blame all the people. And it's just, I just don't understand why he goes down at this level, especially when it comes to Sessions. And then the guy he's going to support is Tuberville, who's a open border type of guy. He's basically the same like Charlie Cook and all that stuff. He's not doing anything that's America first. So I don't know what you do at this point. I'm voting for Sessions in this country or in this state. Even though I think that he was one of the first guys that was there for Trump. He's like a girl sometimes, and I don't, it's I don't know. He is what he is, and I'm okay with it to a point. But at some point, somebody has to smack him around. I'm glad that Coulter is there to say what she has to say. So, just a little discussion about people who are so virtuous online. This morning I got online, and a guy that I know that I was in Air Force with was talking about how the states are doing different things, how that mostly the Democratic governors are still people are staying inside, and the Republican governors are opening up their states. Now, obviously, a lot of Republican governors are in the South, and it's a little bit more warm. And I think that we heard really early on that the virus, after about 80 degrees, it has a problem, can do what it's going to do. So I think that Florida and stuff like that was always going to be a place that might be able to open up early, and apparently it is, and they're doing pretty well there. But there are some people that when they get on there and they say, well, you would have talked to the 90,000 people who've died and their families and all that stuff, when they say that a lot of people said they have nobody that they know that have this virus. And so many people they're so virtuous online. Like, people don't know that what we've been told, that about close to 100,000 have died. And I don't say that's not directly. This has got to be indirectly, because when they actually go back and look at all this stuff, you're going to find that people died with the diseases that they already had, and they also haven't had COVID. And I'm like, this is all very tragic, but we all know, and we all have empathy for the people that have lost things. But I can sit there and say, for any diseases, I mean, in this country, I've lost so many people to cancer in my family. It's shocking. I don't know anybody that's had this virus. I'm not saying that I might have it, and then 6 weeks from now I might be dead. That's not really what I'm saying here. I'm saying that we are so virtuous, and we continually say this stuff and say, you need to be empathetic for the people that have lost people. Great. I'm also empathetic for those who died from drug overdose or having cancer and they can't get any services, or people that are staying inside and they were at that borderline when it comes to mental health, and they end up killing themselves. I have empathy for them. And we're going to have more people. You talk about directly. Let's say 100,000 people died directly from this virus. And I'm talking about, if you look at everything, the guy already had cancer, then he died. That's not directly, okay? They also had virus that was COVID. And then they died with brain cancer. That's not a COVID death. And I'm hoping at some point that they'll actually do this stuff. Let's say 100,000 of those died at that. I'm going to say of those 20% of those should be blamed on the federal and the local government, especially in New York. When you decide that you're going to put somebody that's infected back into nursing homes, and then I find out yesterday that the guy in Michigan that was beating up all the people in the homes, he had COVID. So why would you put a young kid with older people and then infect them? And regardless of his stupid, he hates all white people. Okay. So when it comes down to it, and hopefully somebody will do these studies, and of course, if you do it, they'll say, well, you're being racist for talking about it. There probably 25,000 people died because of human error, our government doing the wrong thing, when things were very clear what they should have done. I'm not talking about we should have shut down the borders a lot earlier. Okay, we probably have loose amount of people who have this, less people who have it. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm not talking about when Trump shut down the country. I'm talking about when these are very clear things. You don't put older people in nursing homes when they could have been somewhere else. When Como was continually complaining that she didn't have enough beds, and then Trump brought a ship in there, and there were other things that were open. All those people should be there. You don't take them. Okay, just go back. And then they lost so many people. And the other thing is, and it sounds, I don't know what you want to call it, ageist, but I had to say this too. I said the media age of people dying with COVID is 81, and that's above our mortality rate in this country. So it's tragic that these people that are older than me that are dying at like 10% when they get it when they're over 80. But mean the people below that, the people under 50, it's like about the same percentage if you got hit by lightning. Now, people have died from lightning every year, or you get run over by something, or you fell in the tub, and you put those together, and that's basically the same as COVID. You have to make a decision at some point. You have to say that it's not really going to affect people that much under 50. Now, I'm 55, and obviously it could happen to me. And I think there's a different thing, how your body reacts to it. But the other issue is that how we continually, whether what side you're on politically, and that's what I said in my response. I said, it's all tragic, but everybody's still playing this political game. If Trump says that this drug might be something that might work, and there's so many studies that says that it could work somewhat, and there are a lot of doctors that say it might work, and all these people get on YouTube and say this, and then 5 seconds later, YouTube takes it off their thing because they're progressive. I'm not saying who's right or wrong in this, but this is information that should be shared, and you should understand whether it's good or not. And we're allowing this to happen. And it's like, you're on this team and you're on this team. And I'm not right, and I'm not left anymore because I don't know what the left has done anymore. But good Lord, there is a lot of studies that talk about this drug saying it's very safe and it can do a lot of things. It probably could have saved let's say thousands of people. But because stupid ass governors are like, because I can't do this because Trump said it. I mean, it's all political, and they don't give a shit. I'm seriously, if I had the power, all of them would be lined up and they'd be dead. They would be fucking dead because none of them give a shit. It's all about power and having a celebrity. They all don't care what it means to be American. It's clear, especially on the left. And so many on the right, they're just, it's like, how many Republicans were against the kids, the Christian guys, the coveting kids? They were, they're this and that, all this shit, especially the ones that are Jewish said the same shit. So I'm like, they all suck. And I thought to Trump, Trump has his issues, okay? How he talks to people, how he talks to women. But good Lord, he's like him now. Anyway, so that's what I want to talk about COVID. I think hopefully that this is not going to come back. This is not influenza. This is a cold, a coronavirus. SARS didn't come back the next year. So I'm hoping that this is, I guess they call that SARS too, whatever. It's not, hopefully it won't come back in the fall. Just be nice to each other, and then we'll get through it, hopefully. And for those who've lost people, who are dealing with it, I do feel bad for you. I do. I'm very empathetic for you. But there are so many people that die in this country. And I don't want to go into an MRA type of rant here, but almost all of these diseases, except for breast cancer, affect men 100 times worse than women. And there is no real federal government agency that talks about men. And this virus is the same way. It kills men at a much higher level. We're not, and you'll see these stupid ass reporters and these little websites saying how this is how strong women are because they can fight off this virus. Well, there's a reason why you're that way. God made you to bear kids, and clearly He wanted you to be the most strongest when it came to stuff like that. We're supposed to do the other shit. We don't need to be told that you're stronger than us because you can fight off shit. Meanwhile, we're out there dying every day for you to have what you want. Anyway, okay, let's talk about sports starting up. Been watching some soccer from Germany. It's a little different, I have to admit. UFC has come back. I think it's been pretty well, actually. I think it's a different sport you can do with it, but I do like having a crowd there. I think it suffers when it comes to soccer, and I'm sure the football will be the same way. You need to have the fans. I'm not sure how they're going to figure this out, but it looks like the SEC is going to be playing. I think at this point, even California is opening up. I don't know who got in Newsom's mind, but he was talking about he was going to be shut down for a lot longer. But I think he had a little discussion with a lot of professional leagues and probably called Trump because I think at some point that Trump is going to give California a lot of fucking money, and the same thing with New York, even though they both bash him, and at the same time to say good things about him. But the rest of the country is going to have to pay for their stupidity when it comes to this, because well, even before the virus, their stupidity. So it's good to see. Gives me something to look forward to. I think it's good for men to have sports in their lives. People go outside and run and do shit. I mean, there's so many issues that by just being locked up in the house that could destroy our immune system, that it's good to see people are out there doing stuff. Regardless how stupid these teachers are, these players are, like these best baseball players saying, "Oh, I'm going to get killed doing this," or "I'm not going to play. I get all this money." I mean, they need to shut that fuck up and play the game, or just not play it. Whatever. It's not that fucking hard, okay? I can find somebody else who can play the damn game, and it'll still be a good game. It may not be the same level that you are, but I can find somebody else. And this is another shot at the women's national team as well. We can find 11 other girls that can play the game and still play at such a high level that they'll do well at the World Cup. I don't need you to continually say that you are a victim in this, because you're not. All right. Let's talk about the controversial thing. We're 26 minutes in already. This could take 50 other years. Anyway, I had this conversation online, and I was defending Nick Fuentes. Not that he needs me with my 300 subscribers to defend him, but he was making a joke about stuff, about cookies and ovens and all this stuff, and people just they think he's a Holocaust denier. I just want the ability for people to have a discussion about this and talking about the logisticity, I can't say the word, how this actually could happen. So he was talking about 6 million people being in the ovens and all this stuff. And this is something I've learned my entire life, right? I was told when I was growing up in the 70s is when they really came out and started pushing this stuff when I was like 12, 13. In school, they started saying that, that they had to take all the town folks to bring all this stuff in and show them what they'd done. And they said, did you know that all this ash that was humming was people that were dying in these furnaces, and it was falling on top of these, their skin was falling on top of them. And I had this image in my mind when I was 12 years old saying, oh my God, how unbelievable bad is this? I mean, it clearly is bad, right? But most of these places they talk about didn't have any ovens. So it took me into my 40s till I started questioning the narrative of the Holocaust. And not necessarily because the idea that if Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews, which is stupid because he wanted most of them to leave Germany and go to Palestine, paid them a lot of money to go do this, allowed them to do it. But he did look at the Jewish people as an enemy of the state, like we did with the Japanese in World War II. Maybe not the same level that Hitler did, but he did, and he interned a lot of them. So I've been told all my life that about 6 million people had died in the ovens. They were gassed and were burned in the ovens. And I said, there's no way that's going to happen based on math and science and everything like that. And then a lot of people, some were Jewish people, that went over there and started looking at the stuff and said, it can't happen at this level. And then 20 years ago or so, Auschwitz had to go from 4 million died here to 1.1 million died here. So I said, right there, half of it's gone. But now people are saying, no, what it really means is that 6 million died, and it could have been died for disease, or they were shot, or they had these gas wagons around and would do the same thing, and then also the gas and the burning thing. So, but that's not what I was told, and that's not how I was pushed at when I was a kid, and what I believed all these years. And then you got Schindler's List, which is the biggest it's not real, okay? Schindler was not that type of person. But anyway, and they show this whole thing. You go in there and in the showers, and then the gas comes in, they all die. And then another scene is that they're there and the water comes down, they're fine, right? But it doesn't, realistically, it doesn't work that way. The truth is clearly this, in my mind, is that they had Cyclone B, which is there to disinfect the people when they came in. because they had typhus in these camps, and they had to do that, and they burned the uh, the clothes and stuff like that, and they gave them their own, just like doing in prisons, they give you something different that's been sanitized, at least at that level. Now, did people get killed for not listening to the guards? Yes. Did people die from in the camps because they weren't fed? Yes. Did most of the dying happen really at the end of the war because the Allies had destroyed all the supply lines, and of course the German people were not going to. They were going to feed their people first, then they were going, or the soldiers before they were going to give it to the people that were interned. And those people died. Now, this conversation I had, he talked about that, and I said, this is good that we actually had this conversation, because it's, in some countries, just saying what I was saying will be considered illegal, and I don't think it should be allowed to be say it's illegal. You should have these conversations and say, explain to me how you think that happened here, and how the entire Jewish population actually didn't lose more than anything. I mean, before the war they were at a certain level. After the war they were at this level. If all those Jews had died, how did this happen? And then we have so many survivors' stories saying that they escaped the gas chamber. I mean, it's just, there's so much more. And really the biggest thing that happens, let's just say that everything was true, that the Jews, some were actually put in the furnaces and they died. The result of all of this, and how they've used this as that destroys the West, it's not at the same level. What's happened from what happened, whatever this is, and the effect to what happened to the West is, to me, is not the same level. And it's not the greatest genocide of all time. And I don't need to know about it every fucking day. I don't need to hear that not enough people younger than me don't understand what happened in the Holocaust. Look, the truth is pretty clear here. This was not really pushed out into the media till in the 70s. I mean, well after the event. And somebody got the idea that we're going to make some sort of profit out of this, or some sort of industry off of this. And they did. And it's billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And this idea, and we as a country still have to do all this stuff for Israel because of what happened to them, and some of them in the intern camps. And we're still having to pay for it. We can all sit there and cry. I've seen, I cried like a fucking baby when I first saw Schindler's List. But it's not. That's fiction, okay? Shit happened in the camps. People died. I still believe this. What I believe is this, is that he is still in charge, or he's still to blame for interning millions of people. He's to blame that under around 300,000 or 400,000 people died in these camps. That's what I believe. I don't believe 6 million or 7 million died in these camps. The statistics don't show this. Like I said, the Red Cross, when they're in there and said what they had to say, a lot of stuff happened after, when the Russians took over these camps, because they want to have more power, and they fabricated shit. The thing with the lampshades that were human skin, that wasn't true. The question I always will have, is that the Nazis tattooed the Jewish people with numbers. Those numbers didn't go above 0.7 or 7 figures. Did they just come in? Maybe this is what happened. And see, I can look at it from both sides. Maybe when they came into Auschwitz, that instead of actually tattooing them, they got off the train and all of them died right there. So, okay, then we might say that it wasn't that much then, right? So if you're killing everybody when they come off those trains, now I don't think logistically that's true, okay? I think that it's possible that some people, but they had them there to work. I'm not saying that if you were old, again, this is another thing, he might have killed all the old people, okay? And he should be responsible for that, and it was an atrocity, but I'm talking about the impact that it's had in the West in the last 80 years, And the last 40 or 50 years, especially when it comes to Germany, France, the Nordic countries, the UK, that because we're so virtuous now that we don't want to stop anything from coming in the country, and we want everything to be wide open because as white people, we're the problem for everything because we're the ones that do this stuff. Nobody else has ever had a genocide. Nobody else has put slaves. Nobody's ever done that. Just us. So so it's possible that that's what happened. But then you find, I mean, if you just go and you actually research the stuff and you don't go to the mainstream stuff and you go to the other places, whether or not you may not want to read this stuff because you think these people are all Nazis and that's what they believe. But there are a lot of people out there that talk about this stuff and they have little conversations about this stuff and they've made some books about it. The narrative has not really changed when it comes to them, not them, but the Holocaust industry. But the facts have changed over the years. And whether you want to call about Holocaust or Holocaust or revision or anything like that, there are a lot of things that these revisionists have actually made them have to change their narrative because they try forever to say that so many people died in Holocaust. They had to change that. There are a couple of camps that they said people died here with gas and were burned there. They found that they didn't do any of those things there, so they had to stop that part as well. But it doesn't stop this narrative or a story out there that says this stuff, that these people will always be the biggest victims in the world. And anyway, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to talk about. My conversation has not really changed that much. I think that there was no final solution. I don't know if there's any proof of that. I thought if there really was, that there would be none left, or there'd be so few. It would have been done so quickly and efficiently, that it wouldn't be what we see. These little doors that have windows on them, or places that are not sealed with gas. You would have killed the soldiers and everything else. It just wasn't efficient at all. Now, I've seen a lot of different movies, and they very early on they said this is how they used to do it. They had these little trucks, and they would just use it that way, like carbon monoxide, and they would kill somebody that way, or they would shoot people down and put them in the graves. It's all horrific stuff, right? And the Nazis that did that should go to jail, but not somebody who happened to be a soldier at these camps and did things by the book. They should. I mean, they're still going after people who are in their 90s right now, who or an account just because they're Nazis. I mean, you know that there were a lot of Jewish people in the Nazi party. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I'm almost 40 minutes in. Let me know what you think. All my different topics. You can call me a Nazi or whatever. It's not going to bother me because this is what I believe at this point. I think a lot is the propaganda, and they've got a hell of a lot more than they thought they were going to get from this, because they have so much power in the West, and this is the whole thing with Trump. It's another issue when it comes to this, and the Congress saying that it's anti-Semitic to even talk about this. And you think that's just, it was supposed to be something that's not having any really power, this bill that they did. Well, it's coming. You're not going to be able to say this at all. And it's going to do things in the state of Florida. I've told you many times on this channel that if you say shit like I'm saying about that, if I was going to school, they could expel me just by this thought I have, because it doesn't follow their narrative. And that kind of goes back to everything else, because the same people runs all this shit. So when you go down that rabbit hole, you realize there's a hell of a lot more. Sometimes you got to get the hell out of it because it'll just make you go crazy. And that's how I am right now. But I still believe what I believe. Thank you for watching. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.